I never worked in a project management office. We didn't have the formal process where um, we didn't refer to people as stakeholders. They were just our franchisees. They were the people I worked with. I didn't use the terminology. We didn't have a project owner or a project sponsor, and we didn't have any of that terminology.
Welcome to the Disgruntled PM podcast, your weekly therapy session for the chaotic world of project management, transforming daily frustrations into real action. Welcome, everybody. I'm Trevor, the Disgruntled PM, joined today by my guest, Nikki Duncan. Nikki is quite the accomplished project manager in her career as well as an industry leader. Nikki, why don't you go and introduce yourself to the audience?
Thanks for having me, Trevor. This is good. This is going to be fun. We're going to have a good time today.
Absolutely.
Yes, I am a project manager. I earned my PMP earlier this year. I have built my career in operations management, administration management, change management, kind of all the managements.
Crisis management.
Crisis management, that one's definitely up there. I've built my career on all of that and am now looking for my next great adventure.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of people out there now is looking for the next adventure.
Yes. Yeah, we are.
So I guess we can start with the present and move our way a little bit backwards here and talk about, you just passed your PMP.
Last year, yes.
Now, I know they've changed it a lot recently, and you had to go through the version with Agile and all that stuff in the PMBOK, right?
Yes, I did.
So what was that? How was your studying process for that and kind of learning both waterfall and Agile at the same time simultaneously?
It was extremely overwhelming. I came into project management and the PMP process a little backwards.
Everybody does.
Everybody does. I didn't even know it was a thing. I just knew that in my last job, I was given a task and they, we need to accomplish this task. I'll make sure it gets done. Okay. And I would make it up and get it done. And I did not have, it was never a formal approach like they teach in the PMBOK and Project Management Institute. It was never anything formal like that. And as my job was ending, one of the gentlemen I had worked with says, you should, he was like, what are you going to do next? And I said, well, I haven't really figured it out. He says, oh, you should look at getting your PMP. You'd be really good at it. You already do it and you've been doing it. And I was like, I wonder what that is. And
Yeah,
so I dug into looking at what it was and I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this thing. And then reading everything. And I didn't know, right? I went into it really backwards. Everybody that I talked to said that PMI was the way to go for it. So I went through the Project Management Institute and I signed up for the class through the Project Management Institute to get the PMP certification. And very quickly began thinking, I'm pretty sure this class is for people who know what the heck they're talking about. And
I'll let you in on a secret. None of us know what we're doing.
None of us know. Okay, cool. That makes me feel better. Because I would do the course material through PMP, and then I was on YouTube, finding people on YouTube, watching YouTube channels. I was purchasing and buying books on it. I was listening to podcasts. I was doing all kinds of stuff, just trying to figure it out. And I found a guy on YouTube who was doing a bunch of YouTube videos about it, and I just kind of queued him up. And every time I was in the car driving, I was listening to him. If I was out in the barn cleaning stalls or doing chores, I had my earbuds in and I was listening to him. So a lot of my study material and study time was just while I was working, doing other stuff. And I wasn't physically looking and reading. It was just repetitive over and over and over in my head. As I got to moving closer to the test, then that's when the real reading stuff started. And I have those large Post-it easel boards, and my office walls were just solid wallpapered with all of those things and all of the systems and the processes and the formulas and the theories and the frameworks and all of it was just all over my walls.
And the
Um,
equations that you didn't really need to memorize.
the equations that you didn't have to memorize, that's where my stress was. I kept putting off that test because of the equations. I was terrified
Yeah.
about the I was because I'm not a math person. I'm a people and relationships person. I'm not a math person, and those were freaking me out. And I even took a class through Udemy on to get ready for it. It was the same guy that I found on YouTube. He had an
Mhm.
Udemy class, and his class was my favorite actually because he kept saying on this is what it is in perfect world. This is what the PMBOK says. This is, the perfect PMI scenario. This is real world scenario. This is test scenario. And so he would give you the different scenarios and gave you tips on how to work out the answer. How to work the multiple choice, eliminate the really bad ones
Yeah.
first and then narrow it down kind of thing. And it was all just very common sense and logical. And in his YouTube videos, he would talk about how he is not a math person and he doesn't like the math and all the equations either. He says, but good news, you're only going to have 2 or 3 of those questions on the test. They have a calculator built into the test thing. And so it was just his approach to it really kind of helped take the stress off. And yeah, it was a lot though.
Yeah. I remember. I've told people I had to take it 4 times to pass it because I like taking the test that much.
I didn't do it 4 times, Trevor. I did it 1 time. I told my husband, I said, "I can't study anymore for this test."
Well,
I
there
kept taking practice tests. I couldn't pass a practice test to save my soul.
yeah.
But I was
Yeah.
like,
And
"You know what? I can't do this anymore. I have to move on." Right? There comes a point when you just have to hit the stop button. You have to move forward. And I reached that point where I'm like, I just have to move forward. I can't keep living in this, not
well,
knowing.
what
And I took the test and I thought, I've already paid for the test. I'm either going to pass it or fail it.
mhm.
And I was beyond shocked when I actually passed it.
Yeah. I
But
it took me the 4 tries, but the first 3 out of those 3 probably 1 to 2 were actual real attempts because I came in not even knowing really what I was doing,
yeah.
and I just assumed, "Oh, I've been a PM, I know what I'm doing," didn't even know what the PMBOK was.
Yeah.
So,
It was
I
it was
joked
a
that
lot reading that. And the other thing that I had to do, and I don't know if you had to do it when you went for yours, is when I didn't even realize I had to apply to be approved
Mhm.
to take the
Yep.
test,
Yep.
and I had to provide my project management plans to prove that I had the experience, and I had to get
You had to
people that I worked with on those
Oh, you got an
projects.
audit. You got an audit.
Yes. I had to do an audit.
Oh,
I had to provide the project management plans. I had to have people that I worked with on the project write a recommendation to PMI directly to them.
yep.
It couldn't come
Yep.
through me to say, yes, she did this. And I couldn't use the same person more than once. So even though I only had for the entire time I worked on project management, I had one boss who oversaw everything. But I couldn't have that one boss say, yes, she did all of these. I had to find an individual person for each project management plan that I put together. I was like,
Alright,
"Oh
so
my gosh." That was a
so
lot
we're
for
gonna
me.
take a pivot right here because I want you're one of the first people I've talked to that actually got hit with an audit when they
Oh
applied.
boy.
So, talk about that, how did you go about going through that process, walk the audience through it? Is it as difficult and painful as you hear about, or is it just a minor inconvenience?
Well, it was painful for me because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I had, again, coming into project management completely backwards, right? I never worked in a project management office. We didn't have the formal process where we didn't refer to people as stakeholders. They were just our franchisees. They were the people I worked with. I didn't use the terminology. We didn't have a project owner or a project sponsor, and we didn't have any of that terminology. It was just, "Hey, we need to get this job done. Nikki, go make this job happen." And I just kind of made it up. So I didn't have any of that. And I was really, really lucky that when my job ended, well, I was really lucky that I started working on the project management stuff before my job ended. So I was able to pull all of that historical data out of my job. If I had not been able to pull all of the historical data, like my results and things like that, out of my job and out of that old data, I wouldn't have been able to put the project management plans together because
So
I would have just been making it up. And then I had to learn how to write a project management plan for the audit because I had never written one. And because I didn't have a college degree at the time, I had to prove 5 years of project management. And so I couldn't just write one big project plan, right? I had to write 5 or 6 different project management plans. So I had to do 5 or 6 different ones. And then I had to upload them. And then became chasing the different people to do the recommendation. And they'd say, "Oh, yes, yes, I'll do it." And then I'd say, "Okay, I'm going to hit send now." And I would hit submit. And then they wouldn't do it. And then I'd have to start over again. And um, I actually had to go through that audit process twice because I got rejected for the test once or twice. I had to do it multiple times because of the recommendations or the project plan that I put together originally wasn't detailed enough. And I'm like, okay, I got to go back and put more into it. Um, it was it was kind of a pain in the neck.
yeah, I mean, I'm putting off my next certification because I know that when I've been looking at the program management professional cert, and I've
hmm
already been told that every single person that applies gets hit with an audit. It's a random 100% audit.
A random 100. Don't you love that?
Yeah.
Apparently I seem to get those because I got that through the Texas Workforce Commission too. I got hit by a random 100% audit. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
hearing you tell that story just makes me even want to do that cert less because I know that I know the amount of work that's going to go into chasing people down for it.
Yeah. Well, and I learned a few things the hard way, right? We talk about in project management. We talk a lot about our lessons learned, and some of my lessons
Hmm.
learned were always, always, always track what you're doing on your own dime and on your own time and on your
Yep.
own records while you go. Track your impact and the work that you're doing, whether it is a number impact or a non-tangible impact. Track your impact as you go because one of these days you're going to need that. And if you're not in a lucky situation like I am, where I actually still have 100% of my archive data on a hard drive up here on my shelf, if you're not lucky to be able to have that from your job, then you're not going to have what you need to do it.
Or two or three jobs ago
Or two,
because
right,
people are,
2 or 3 or 5
especially as
jobs, right? It's not
PMs.
even one job. Yeah. Yeah. And if
Yeah.
you're a project manager who works a contract and you're at this company for
Oh
this
yeah.
project and this contract, and then you're over here for this one. I mean, you're talking 5 or 6 or 10 different places, right?
Hmm.
Um, I was really lucky in that it was one company, one boss, and because she had the historical data, I had access to the historical data. And so I was in a really fortunate situation and circumstance there that a lot of people weren't. So track your data as you go because you just never know. And it doesn't matter if you're tracking your data as a project manager or you're tracking your data as just a random Fred Flintstone working who might need to do a resume one day. Track your progress.
Yeah. And I will caveat that as I do a lot of coaching with PMs, both up and coming and mentoring and prior military and a lot of different groups. And one of the things I tell them is keep track of your information and what you're doing, but also be mindful of what you're putting on on personal information that could be
hmm
considered company confidential because,
Yeah.
you could be saving data thinking, oh, these are metrics that are important to me, but you could also be saving confidential information or proprietary information that's not supposed to leave a company server and you just put it on a thumb drive and walked out the door with it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I actually have a spreadsheet now that when I work on things, I track stuff in my spreadsheet. I did this project, and I've done it for some clients, and I don't name who the clients are, but I worked for client A and they needed this task done, and this is how we did that, and these were the results of that task. And I can't there's some data I can't share, and even with my last
Mhm.
job, I'm not beholden to any kind of confidentiality agreements. I could go out there in the world and share exact numbers, but I won't, because those exact numbers aren't really other people's business, and it was my boss's private data, and I don't want to share her private data. Um, so I just go with up to, or I do
Vague
approximations.
terms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do vague terms. And I underplay it, so my impact was actually more than what it was. I underplay what it actually was, um, because it's better to underplay than overplay. Should anybody
Yeah.
go and say, "Now verify this for me." Well, she kinda made that up. So I underplay it a little bit, but yeah, tracking those metrics is critical.
Yeah. And I've had some clients where I've done some consulting work for them and they give me more information than I need to help them out. And there's also no NDA in place. So it's a integrity check of what are you going to do with the information they're giving you
Yeah,
other than use it to help their business, but they're also giving you the keys to their business and it's on you to be the intelligent one to say, "Okay, thanks." And then erase that information out of your mind or mask it with mask it so to speak so that if you share information, client information, you're not sharing it to come back to any one person. It's all generic terms.
exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly how I do it.
And then we talk
Yeah,
about AI, adding AI to that layer of information. And it's a whole nother game because, anything you put into AI becomes the feeding the beast for everything else.
exactly. Yes, the data protection and stuff that you've got to keep in mind with AI, and that's a common question I get asked is, well, how can I use AI and still protect my information? Um,
Air gap
I
it.
have to they've got it, yeah. I have to assume that even this conversation, even before you ever edit this and go live and post it online, I have to assume that, you know what? AI already has this.
Oh, it will.
It's on the internet. This exists. There's a transcript of this somewhere, even before you ever go live with it, because we're online recording it. So it's there. There's no full the only way to fully protect yourself is to just not be online. And how do we live not online, right?
I have a friend that does. I have a very successful PM friend who contracts for a major company who lives completely off social media, offline. Like
Yeah.
he is one of the best PMs I've ever met. And you would never know it by the way that he carries himself, both personally and professionally. And also, he has no digital footprint anywhere.
Yeah. And
But
I know people who don't have the social media, but there's definitely, I mean, their email accounts and bank accounts and all of that stuff. I mean, it's all there.
well, it goes to a concept that we both are very familiar with is the best versus best known.
Hmm.
You know,
Yes.
we you can be the best in your field and the best in your profession, but if nobody who knows who you are, then you got to be very good at what you do and very good in a very small fishbowl
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
because the name of the game is personal branding now. And like it or hate it, you got to do that if you want to get ahead.
I agree completely. It's not always easy.
No, it's not. It's very hard.
It's
And,
yeah. And
and that's
figuring
why
out
so
what
many
your
people
brand
quit.
is. Yeah, just figuring out what your brand is and what do I really want to be? And I've asked myself that a lot this last year. What do I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah. And the best part about digital media, I guess, and living on the internet is you can brand yourself one way and it takes some effort, but you can recreate that image And one of the things I coach a lot of transitioning veterans on is you don't control your reputation. Everyone you interact with does.
Yep. You can work on it, you can make it stronger, but it's how other people see you.
Yeah, and how they interact with you because
Yeah.
I know of a couple of very influential people on LinkedIn and social media, and whenever their names come up in private conversations, because everybody goes to them when they hear certain career fields, same things come up privately that don't come up publicly. And it's just funny how the reputation follows you because I go by, are you familiar with pie theory?
No, I don't think I am.
That's professional, image, and exposure.
Okay.
And would you basically break your career down into those three categories? And if you had 100 points to pick between the three, where do you think the best practice for the dispersion is?
Okay. I'd have to give that a lot of thought.
Just
It's professional, image, and exposure. Boy, I think that mine would have to be, I think the P and the I would probably be heavier.
no.
No?
It's the theory states about 60% of your effort should be in your exposure, 30% in image, 10% in performance. Because
Okay.
if nobody knows, if, we all look at some of these celebrities and we wonder, how did they become that way? Or we'll, we'll take Pete Davidson,
I don't know
the
who
Saturday
that
Night
is.
Live guy.
Okay.
He was on Saturday Night Live and he's not what you would consider classically handsome, but he dates all the celebrities, all the supermodels.
Okay.
And we joke about how does he get all these girls if he's not good looking? Well,
Because he's
I've heard
known.
because
Yeah.
he dated one girl and then everybody else went after it. And then it became a whole lot easier for the next one and the next one and the next
Yeah.
one.
Well, I
So,
definitely in my previous career before I was unemployed, I would definitely say that the exposure part was way less for me. I've definitely been working on making a shift since losing my job because I have to have people who know me, right?
well, it, it comes down to the idea behind it is you don't have to, we all know those people who are terrible at their jobs, but always get promoted.
Yes, we do.
And then we all know the people who are phenomenal at their jobs and never get promoted. And
Yeah.
it goes into it dovetails right into that best versus best known concept because you could be terrible at your job but be known as the greatest person in the world at this particular skill set, and no one really has to know that you're terrible because everyone just assumes, oh, you're great.
Right. Right. Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
Like Bernie Madoff is a perfect example of that. Everybody said, put your money with Bernie, you make tons of money. He was terrible. He was good at scamming people, and that was about it.
But everybody knew him. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So I want to pause here for a minute and talk about the Patreon that I have for the show because that's how you can help. That's how the audience can help support the show. We have subscribers already, and there's two tiers. There's the low hanging fruit tier, which is $1 a month, which just helps keep the show going. You know, I'll be honest, there's no perk other than you're helping me fund everything that I'm doing for the show and promotional and everything else. And then there's the $5 a month drink in the Kool-Aid tier, which is where every guest that comes on records what are called the post-mortem interviews, which is a bonus episode of about 20 minutes where I take the guest and I probe them for their expertise. So me and Nikki are going to be talking a little bit about transformation fatigue and playing to your strengths in the post-mortem interview. So that's and that's just really the way that you can support the show, but I'm not asking for for a handout. I'm giving something back from my guests. So do you know you were doing that, Nikki?
I didn't know I was doing that, but okay.
Well, now you do. Consider yourself educated.
I'm educated.
You sign up for the show, you sign up for everything.
I got it. Okay. Yeah. You know what? I think that that's fine. I tell people all the time if I don't want something on the internet, I don't put it on the internet. They're like, well, how do I,
Yeah.
going back to that, how do I protect my data? Don't put it on the internet.
Yeah. You have to put
Because
it on a
once it's there,
computer.
you're not erasing it. It's there.
Don't I know it? Yeah. You know,
There's no
I
going back once it's out there.
I'm just so glad that when I was in college, there weren't picture camera phones and all that stuff to be able to capture some of the things I did.
Right? Yeah. I mean, today's kids have to be so much more savvy. I'm not sure they always are, but they have to be so much more savvy.
Yeah, if you could corner one of my previous guests, Dennis Cisterna, and ask him some of the questions that I don't want asked to him, he'll have some fun answers for you.
Yeah. Yeah, my husband tells stories, I'm like, "Whew, I'm glad there weren't cameras back then." He's like,
Yeah.
"No kidding, right?" Yeah.
Yeah, but it was also a different generation too in a lot of ways that we have a lot of, you think about that there's no cameras and there's no evidence, but there's also no documentation of things that we did. So if you don't remember it, it didn't happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword
It is. It is. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
because there are plenty of things I did that I'm like, man, I can tell you that, but the visual really paints the better picture than what you're
Mhm.
imagining in your head sometimes, or it tames down that image of what's in your head.
Yes. Yeah, some of the yeah. And I was real boring growing up. I didn't have a life. I was super boring. I didn't do anything really exciting. Um the stories that there are stories that, my mom will tell stories, and her cognition, in all fairness, her cognition is beginning to decline. So she tells stories and I'm like, that's not but sometimes I'm like, whoa, that is really not how that happened. And she just, some of the stories we tell, right? They get so exaggerated, and it's like, no, hang on a second. But but yeah, I mean, some of them it would be really fun to have on video that are not on video.
Well, you know the saying about stories, right?
I'm
There's
sure that
3
I'm
sides to there's
oh
3
yeah.
sides to every story. There's my side, your side, and then the truth that lies somewhere in between the 2.
Yes, exactly. I've used that before. Well, it's somewhere in the middle there. Let's figure it out. Yeah.
And, there's all kinds of scientific research about memories and remembering things and selective memory and all that because, I being prior military, I ran the detention facility for 15 months and overseas, and I would watch team after team after team bring in detainees, and we'd have to have them all write sworn statements. And I'd ask 5 people that were on the same raid in the same place what happened, and then we'd have to build the story around everybody's section of the story to build the narrative for everybody to kind of tell the same thing, because if we didn't, everybody would be telling a different story and then nothing would make sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny, it's the same thing in parenting and in the workplace and every relationship we have. It's all the same, right? There's shades of truth in all of it. And it's like, okay, now let's find the real truth and let's really find what happens. And now that everything
And,
is on camera, you're like, oh, that's what really happened. Got it.
and even then, if it's on camera, it could still be up to interpretation of
Yeah.
whether or not you're seeing this portion or this portion with 10 seconds or 30 seconds leading in or trailing out.
Yeah. Context matters, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can edit this to make you sound horrible.
Please don't.
I don't plan to. I don't do a I don't heavy edit anything because I like authentic conversation.
I make enough stupid comments on my own, Trevor. I don't need any help.
What do you think I do? What do you think I'm doing over here?
I make all kinds of ridiculous comments. I'm like, wait, I just said what? No, never mind. That's not what I meant. I meant
Yeah.
this.
Well, we have a question for you to put your foot in your mouth later, don't worry.
Oh, great. Okay. I'm geared up.
Yeah. I'll prompt you for that one, don't worry.
Okay, this is the foot in the mouth question. Super duper.
No, it's not there yet. Well, I got to let it breathe a little bit now
Now, yeah, of course, of course. All right.
cuz because how else am I going to get the audience to listen to the rest of the episode?
Well, of course. You got to give them something good.
So, I understand you have a few entertaining stories that you prompted me with, and one involved a shootout in a parking lot.
Yeah?
Care to share?
Care to share? Well, we mentioned in the intro that I did some crisis management work. Um, and that was one of our crisis moments. I had a franchisee call me one time. I used to work for a national franchise. and I supported locally within our Metroplex, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, I supported 130 different locations. One of our franchisees called me one day. He's in a panic because there's a shootout in his shopping center in the parking lot. And the bullets have already gone through the window, the glass window storefront of the barbershop or hair place, whatever, next door. And he's calling me, asking me for advice of what to do. He says, I need to close my store. There's a shootout, but I don't want to be non-compliant. I mean, if this tells you how big of a deal compliance was, there's a shootout in the parking lot. And he says, I need to close my store, but I don't want to be non-compliant. What do I do? I said, well, first off, you need to not worry about trying to go lock your front door. Because I don't care if your door is locked or not. I care if you get shot. So you
Now,
need
bear
to
in
get
mind, there are children that listen to this show.
right. You need to, but it doesn't get graphic. I said, I care what happens to you. You need to get low. You need to get down. You need to get in the back room, and you need to have a million things between you and whatever may or may not come through your store. I said, I'm gonna guess that the police have been called. He says, yes, they're out there. I said, well, they're going to keep people from coming to your store. You don't need to worry about locking your door. You need to worry about getting down and getting low and getting safe and all of that stuff. I said, now when the danger has passed, then yes, we can close your store temporarily. That is not a problem. We need to, I mean, because the cops are going to close the shopping center anyway. They're not letting anybody in until the investigation's done and everything else. I said, yeah, we can close your store, no problem. But in the panic of the moment, and in that case, the crisis was very, very real. And in the panic of that moment, it was very clear to me how we stop thinking logically in some ways. And he was like, I need to close the store. I need to call our corporate headquarters and let them know the store's closed for the afternoon. No, you really don't. You need to take care of you and the people in your store and get safe. And all of the rest of it, we'll figure it out on the back end.
So I
Um,
would almost challenge that sounds like a culture problem more than anything, that you had
hmm,
this owner that was so petrified of corporate, of shutting down their business in the middle of active gunfire. That's where their mind went first and not to safety.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, culture problem, terror. I mean, yeah. And and I love that I was the first one that he called. He's like, "Oh my gosh, this is what's going on. This is what I need to do. What do I do?" And I was always the one that, kind of had to, yes, those are the rules and we do have to report that. But first, we need to do this first. And, and all of that. And, it's funny, there's a LinkedIn conversation that we've had a conversation going on one of the posts, and it was talking about rules exist, but we have to keep the people in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And there are black and white rules. But when we bring all the people into the picture, all of this gray space starts to happen. And being able to differentiate the difference between the letter of a rule and the spirit of a rule, and where's the gray area in between there. And he was worried about the letter of the rule. And, I was able to look at it and go, yes, that is important to let corporate know that this is happening, because they will get calls. Corporate will get calls about why can't I get to the store or whatever, and they need to know what's going on. Yes, there's a rule and we need to adhere to that. But here's this wiggle room that we've got in the middle. Here's the gray space, and here's where we can tweak and move, and here's where we have some flexibility. And being able to find that and help him through it, that was a really big deal for him. And nobody got
Well,
hurt in the shootout. Nobody was injured. Maybe in the parking lot. Nobody that I know of was injured. The investigation was handled swiftly. Business was reopened, and no patrons were harmed or anything else. So it could have been much worse than it was, but it was an interesting lesson to me of where our minds go in the moment. And like you said, the corporate culture definitely played into where his mind went in that moment.
your story about the franchisee being worried about the shootout, it's like, your brain only goes to so many places when you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So I think now is the appropriate time to let you put your foot in your mouth with this, with my personalized question for you.
Okay.
So it's not a well-known fact, but I know this, that you write romance novels.
I do. It's pretty well
Now,
known. If you Google my name, you're
okay,
going to find it,
okay, but most of the people that know you professionally probably don't know that.
right?
Now, I want you to pick your favorite story, give us a 30-second synopsis of the book, and then retell the story in the real world of how that story would go.
Oh, favorite story. Honestly, my favorite story already is kind of real world.
Okay, sure.
My favorite story, it was, by the way, the worst performing story ever, but it was the best written. It was the
Isn't that the
best
way it
thing.
always goes?
It is. It's the best thing I ever did. Even my editor was like, "Whoa, this is the best thing you ever did." It is a Christmas story, and it started out as a joke. I was making fun of my editor one day, and I'm just making fun of her. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, that'd be such a fun story. You write it and I'll publish it." And I was like, "Okay." Uh, and it didn't turn out as a funny, haha story. It's a pretty serious Christmas story that revolves around organ donation and a children's hospital, um, and then the relationship that develops as a result of. And I actually I decided I wanted to set the book in a real world place. And so it is set in Indianapolis. I went to Indianapolis with my kids and my editor. We went on a research trip. We went to all the real world places and visited everything. I mean, we made up some events, but we went to all the real world places. My youngest daughter, who is no longer that young and fun anymore. Well, she's still fun, but anyway, my youngest daughter, she became one of the characters in the book because she's an absolute riot. So it was already kind of real world. It was, yeah, it was already real world. So, and after the book, even after the book was written, I had, it's funny, those keywords do some crazy things, right? Um, After the book was written and published, I had people write to me and say, "I work at the hospital you set this in. And did you meet our chief medical officer while you're here? Because that's what he's like." And I was like, "No, I didn't meet him while I was there. I heard stories about him while I was there. But I didn't meet him." And she says, "Man, it's like you know him because that's how he is." And the only freedom I took with this story is that they had a clown and they're doing magic shows because they don't have they don't have clowns in the building, because clowns are scary to kids. But
Clowns are
that's the
scary
only
to
real freedom
adults.
I took. Clowns are scary. Yeah. Um, but that's really the only major freedom I took. And that's the one thing she said, the only freedom you took. But I acknowledge that in the beginning of the book, I took this liberty. Um, but yeah, that was my favorite one ever.
I was expecting better, like the the hero whimsically runs in and grabs the woman and all the romance tropes, and then the real story is she was doing laundry.
No, mm-mm. My women are not like that. My women are the ones who, no, my heroines don't wait for the man to come save her. She's going to save herself.
Well, I
I
think
write
that's
very strong, bold women, which anybody who knows me would not be surprised by that. That I write
that
strong, bold women. It's how I raised my daughters. Now, okay, I'll give this one to you because it's my daughter's favorite thing, and she loves to pick on me about it. I wrote one book and it came from a story. A friend told me this story of something that really happened, and I twisted it and tweaked it and turned it into a story. This guy gets handcuffed into the toilet in the housewares department of like a Home Depot kind of place. And my daughter is like, "How does one get handcuffed to a toilet?" I'm like, "Well,
I was wondering the same thing myself.
you have to read the book to find out."
And what's the title of that book?
That is called Handcuffed in Housewares.
Wow, very original title.
Very on the nose, right? Um, yeah. And it's a story a friend was telling me about somebody that she knew getting handcuffed to a toilet. And I'm like, how exactly does one do that? And so she told me the story, and I said, you know what? It's free game. I'm stealing that because it's just too stupid not to be in a book.
Yeah, I mean, hey, some of the places that I get my content that I use are just some of the most random conversations I have.
Yeah, you can't make it up, right? Life is funnier than fiction sometimes.
Unless you're stuck in a Hallmark movie.
Unless you're stuck in a Hallmark movie. Yes.
So I think that's a great place for us to wrap this.
Okay.
Nikki, why don't you tell the audience where they can find you and what you want them to take away from this?
The audience can find me anywhere online. I am on Instagram. I'm on all of it. LinkedIn professionally, I'm on LinkedIn as Nikki Duncan PMP, and my other professional world, which is the author, public speaker side, is at nikkiduncan.com, and all of my social media accounts are on there. And gosh, I hope that people find, I really hope that somebody finds an easier way to the PMP certification through this. Because
And we'll have
that was big for me, was finding an easier way to the PMP certification, and I did it, and I was like, "Okay, now I have the certification, and here's what I would have done differently." I wish I'd known all that stuff before about the audit and all of that.
that should be your next novel.
How to get a
The strong
PMP
heroine who
certification?
wants to get her PMP.
I don't know if I can make that much fun.
Oh, come on. We
Yeah.
romanticize the PMP and how it's the greatest thing ever, and it's the missing link to everything you've ever wanted in your happiness in life as a project manager.
Okay. I didn't
In reality,
romanticize
it's
any of it, right? I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm gonna go for it because it might help me make more money. I mean,
that's the
that's
real
really what it
answer.
was. I went for it because there was the chance that it was gonna help me make more money, which is the real reason why I went for it. But so far, I haven't found my next great opportunity, so we'll see what happens with the money side of it.
Well, it's out there. You've just got to find it.
I do. I do. I'll find it.
So with that, like, subscribe, and follow the show on all the major platforms. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend. If you didn't enjoy this episode, try another one. There's tons of great guests, and Nikki is joined by a lot of great people that I've had on the show, and a lot of very educational and influential people. So I'd also like to thank all the Patreon subscribers for their time and effort in helping keep the show going. With that, for Nikki Duncan, may all your deliverables be on time, your budget's in the black, and your scope not creeping. For Nikki Duncan, I'm still Trevor, and I'm still the disgruntled PM. Thanks for listening.